They were convinced their tanks were invincible. The Type 95 Hago had proven itself against Chinese forces and swept through Malaya and the Philippines. Japanese tank crews believed their light tanks represented the pinnacle of armored warfare design, perfectly suited for the jungles and islands of the Pacific. They had crushed every enemy they encountered. They were wrong. The Hago was the product of careful planning, designed in 1933 to be fast, mobile, and easily manufactured. Japanese planners needed a tank that could keep up with motorized infantry, navigate rough terrain, and be produced in quantities their industrial base could sustain. It weighed just 7.4 tons, mounted a 37 mm gun, and was powered by a reliable air-cooled diesel engine. The most notable feature was its simplicity, including the bell-crank suspension. It was fast, reaching 45 km per hour. Its thin 12 mm armor was deemed sufficient to resist rifle and machine gun fire, the enemies they expected to fight. Inside the tank was desperately cramped. The crew consisted of just 3 men. The commander occupied the turret alone, forced to command the tank, operate the 37 mm main gun, load it himself, and operate a second machine gun, all while standing in the tight space. American tankers later marveled that anyone could fight effectively under such conditions. In its intended role in China, the Hago was devastating. Its mobility and firepower against forces with virtually no anti-tank capability bred a dangerous assumption that the Hago was a genuinely capable tank rather than a vehicle optimized for a specific, limited scenario. That assumption was first tested at Khalkhin Gol in 1939 against the Soviet Union. Here, the Hago faced real opposition. Soviet BT-5 and BT-7 tanks had thicker armor and better 45 mm guns. Soviet guns easily penetrated the Hago's thin protection, while the Japanese 37 mm struggled to damage the Soviet tanks. The battles were brutal, and the lesson was clear. The Hago was outmatched by modern armor. Yet, this critical lesson was not fully absorbed by Japan's military leadership. Japanese confidence was reinforced by early victories in Malaya and the Philippines in 1941. Hago tanks navigated terrain British commanders thought impossible, supporting the rapid advance on Singapore. In the Philippines, the Type 95 even engaged American M3 Stuart light tanks, achieving early success. From the Japanese perspective, the tank was performing exactly as designed. However, the war had changed, and the true reckoning arrived on Saipan in June 1944. This island was strategically vital. The Japanese fortified it heavily, including the 9th Tank Regiment, equipped with a mix of Hagos and Type 97 Chiha medium tanks. This was the largest armored force the Americans had yet faced in the Pacific. On June 17, Lieutenant General Yoshitsugu Saito ordered a major night counterattack to throw the American beachhead into the sea. Colonel Guto's tank column moved out in the pre-dawn darkness. The crews were confident, trusting their machines and their tactics. But the Americans were ready. Marine sentries reported the distinctive sound of diesel engines and clanking tracks moving toward the perimeter. At 03:30 hours, the Japanese attack began. 44 tanks advanced toward the 2nd Marine Division's positions. Then, something unexpected happened. Something that would fundamentally change how Marines viewed Japanese armor for the rest of the war. Marine machine gunners opened fire, not with standard rifles, but with the Browning M2 heavy machine guns. The mathematics were unforgiving. The 50 caliber rounds didn't just dent the tanks, they penetrated cleanly, decisively. At close range, rounds punched through the thin armor, entering one side and exiting the other. Inside the cramped Japanese tanks, crews experienced a terrifying revelation. Their heavy machine gun fire wasn't just loud, it was coming through the armor. The fundamental premise of armored warfare that the armor protects the crew, was instantly shattered. As the Hago attack faltered under this unexpected fire, M4 Sherman medium tanks moved forward to engage. The contrast was stark. The 7.4-ton Hago faced the 31-ton Sherman, which had 51 millimeters of angled frontal armor and a devastating 75 millimeter main gun. Japanese 37mm rounds simply bounced off the Sherman's thick hide. When the Shermans returned fire, Hagos were blown apart. By mid-morning, the counterattack was over. 31 destroyed Japanese tanks littered the battlefield. For the Marines, the victory was grim but decisive. For the surviving Japanese tank crews, the psychological impact was profound. They realized their tanks were not just outmatched, they were obsolete. The equipment they had trusted offered no protection against weapons the Americans used as standard infantry support.